Hey, what's up, everyone? If you click this thinking I'm gonna shit all over every horror movie coming out, I'm not. Gotcha. But horror is my favorite genre, and I haven't really talked about it in general lately. And don't worry, I got plenty of shit to say about the new trend of what's been called elevated horror. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree. Just know that if you do, you're wrong. I'm just kidding. Maybe. With this modern resurgence in horror, something's actually been on my mind lately. I don't think I like horror as much as I used to. Now, I know that sounds strange coming from a horror artist, but really, I'm just not into it as much as I was before. So, I got to asking myself, why? Is it me? Are my tastes changing? Or is it something else? I don't want to fall into the boomer that hates anything new trap, so I thought about all the movies, books, and games that I like and what I don't, and I think I figured it out. Most modern horror, especially movies these days, just suck. And it has nothing to do with me not liking new things. Let me explain, because I took a long time to think about this and kind of break it down. As a kid, I grew up on 80s horror. I loved everything from creature features to slashers. Then, in the 90s, the blood got toned down, the nudity was almost completely gone, the villains were all misunderstood, and the movies themselves just looked cheap. It was the dark emo PG-13 era of horror, and it fucking sucked. When the early 2000s rolled around, horror got dark, gritty, nasty, and violent again with that hard R rating that I used to love in the 80s. And at the time, that was new. So, me not liking modern horror has nothing to do with not liking new things. It went from me hating 90s horror to loving early to mid 2000s horror when that was new. So, what happened? Well, horror as we know it started with cheesy monster movies in the 50s and 60s. Then, kind of moved on to exploitation and grindhouse films in the 70s. Now, the 70s did give us Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but it wasn't until the 1980s when horror became the mainstream, creating cultural icons like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Chucky, can't forget Chucky, Pinhead, to a lesser extent, and sci-fi creatures like the Xenomorph and the Predator. Even lesser known prevalent creatures like ghoulies, critters, puppet masters, the tall man from Phantasm, Pumpkinhead. Some people even say gremlins. I could just go on and on. But the 80s was the era for horror. Any franchise that started in the 70s really blew up in the 80s. It was a genre that was just as huge, if not surpassing, the typical summer action blockbusters at the time. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing a poster of that year's current monster slasher movie. But, like all good things, it had to come to an end. Now, the 90s wasn't completely terrible. I'm just kidding. It was. The 90s was fucking horrible. It was abysmal if you were a horror fan. All those 80s franchises were updated to fit the annoying extreme sports, depressing grunge, Mountain Dew, misunderstood teen bullshit that kind of ruled the 90s. Freddy Krueger, while not completely deconstructed, was made into a literal movie character in New Nightmare, where the actors played themselves. I mean, it was kind of neat, but felt really unnecessary and kind of dumb. Jason Voorhees, got turned into a fucking cyborg in Jason X. In outer space. Right. Even Hellraiser went to space in Bloodlines. But at least Hellraiser Bloodlines kind of made sense as to why. Then we had the Leprechaun series, and guess what? A Leprechaun 4 in space. Every fucking horror franchise went to space for some reason. Except for Event Horizon, which is probably the best horror movie of the 90s, came out in 1997, and it did horrible when it came out. But honestly, it's probably one of my top 5 favorite horror movies ever made. Event Horizon was one of those hidden gems that didn't do that well when it came out, but gained a cult following. I'm not going to edit this. Following with the DVD release. Really, if you haven't seen Event Horizon, you need to seriously watch it. But no, that was just the leftover of the 80s. And while we did get neat little movies like Warlock, Wishmaster, and Leprechaun, the majority of horror in the 90s was honestly just PG-13 teen angst bullshit. Yeah, the 90s brought us utter garbage like Darkness Falls, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Forsaken. Jesus Christ, The Forsaken. The worst fucking vampire movie I've ever seen, and that's including fucking Twilight. Let's not forget other dumpster fires like Urban Legend. The Faculty was okay. I think that's the one with Elijah Wood and the alien and everything, and Faculty was halfway decent. But then we also had Disturbing Behavior, and that kind of rounded out that era of teen angst bullshit. Now, the 90s also gave us a rebranding of slashers with probably the most popular and only film franchise to survive to this day from that era, Scream. See, Scream was another formulaic teen slasher, but it had grit and was surprisingly violent, which is why it worked. I don't see any other of those movies spawning a series or sequels. Well, I guess except for the announcement of another I Know What You Did Last Summer. But like, why? Do we really need that? Now, like I said about Event Horizon, the 90s wasn't all bad. We did get some awesome cult classics like The Frighteners. We got Silence of the Lambs, which was great. Candyman, which is still awesome to this day. From Dusk Till Dawn, not my favorite, but it was good. Sleepy Hollow was good. Seven, I love Seven. The Crow, and I know it's not horror, but I'm adding it just because. And my personal favorite, very underrated, Clive Barker based movie based on a book called Cabal, Nightbreed. But overall, the 90s was dominated by teen slashers, and they, for the most part, fucking sucked. For a while, horror was kind of a dead genre. It was deader than Rob Zombie's Crow movie before it was even announced. But then a little movie called Saw came out in 2004, and things seemed to get back on track. Horror was good again. We got films like Cabin Fever, which, in my opinion, is Eli Roth's only good movie. I'm sorry, but Hostel 1 and 2 were kind of pointless garbage. Dawn of the Dead was also in 2004, which is probably my favorite zombie movie still. Yes, before Zack Snyder became everyone's most hated director, he actually made some great films. The early to mid 2000s was pretty good. The Saw franchise was going strong. We had a resurgence of pure monster horror like 28 Days Later, American Psycho, The Descent, The Hills Have Eyes remake, Trick or Treat, which is a fucking awesome Halloween movie. Hell, even the Evil Dead remake in 2013 was awesome. We even got a full-on production company like Dark Castle with movies like House on Haunted Hill, Ghost Ship, House of Wax, and, oh yeah, I forgot, 13 Ghosts. 13 Ghosts was a movie where the idea was better than the execution. I know I'm going to get shit for this, for, a lot of people like 13 Ghosts for some reason. The main family was just fucking annoying. And I know people like that movie because of the ghosts, but the main characters just completely fucking killed it for me. Especially the stupid ghost glasses, my god. No, the ghosts were awesome, seriously. The actual ghost in the movie, but you barely got to know or see any of them. It was mostly that annoying fucking family and that stupid kid and the nanny just being dumb as hell. God, that's what killed it for me for 13 Ghosts. Still, cool premise. Moving on. Beyond that, the early to mid 2000s was pretty good for horror. Then something happened. Oh, fuck. Blumhouse released their first film on HBO in 2002, but their first major release, Paranormal Activity, didn't come out until 2009. Their big claim to fame was Paranormal Activity and Insidious. See, Paranormal Activity and Insidious were the start of what's now become the tiresome family drama masquerading as a horror movie. Only, Insidious was good. I really liked it. Blumhouse was also responsible for The Purge, which was a fun but completely unrealistic what-if type movie. I thought The Purge would be a one and done because of how many plot holes the entire premise had, but no, it became an entire fucking franchise. Same with Paranormal Activity. My fears in the 90s of everything becoming teeny bopper bullshit came back, only in a different way. Horror movies were going to become either boring melodramas or full-on stupid fucking outlandish scenarios with no bearing on reality. See, to me, what makes horror good is how relatable a situation can be, no matter how insane it is. Nothing recently has hit that since too many modern horror movies rely on specific things to happen in specific ways, since the focus isn't on the horror anymore, but the stupid characters making stupid decisions. Let's look at Midsommar. Who in their right mind saw that and didn't realize right off the bat everyone wearing those white robes was in a cult? Their demeanor, personalities, everything screamed cult. The first mistake in that situation, aside from going in the first place, was accepting any open beverage from anyone there. It's gonna be drugged. And it was. Then, oh god, they watched that old guy end his life by falling off a cliff as part of a ritual. At what point do you finally tell yourself, fuck this, I'm out? The movie only worked because of how fucking stupid and socially unaware the main characters were. I watched it with my wife, and when I saw the giant yellow triangle barn, I said, that is the ancient symbol for fire. That's for human sacrifice. Maybe I know more about the occult than I should, and I pick up on these things than the average person, but yeah, it just kind of ruined it for me, them not knowing what's going on. I guess it could be argued that one character did try to leave and they killed him as a way to cover the no one gets alive angle, but I expected a little more resistance or awareness from the characters. And yes, I know, they were being drugged like I said, but it still didn't make watching it any less frustrating. Which brings me to my next gripe. The rise of the most pretentious production company in Hollywood, A24. Now, I know people praise A24 for making daring, thought-provoking movies with a deep message, but honestly, they're just the other side of the same coin of nonsensical comic book movies with no substance. Hereditary was a boring slog that made absolutely zero sense if you actually know anything about Paimon from the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and it's pronounced Paimon, not Payman. It's like the writers looked up cool demon names at random and said, yeah, let's do it about that one. Then we have Tusk, which was okay at best. Still slow and kind of boring. Under the Skin, starring a naked Scarlett Johansson, was also boring, but at least it was interesting. And I mean, like, from the whole alien trying to mimic human behavior, kind of art house visuals aspect, and that's what A24 is. They're an art house company. Under the Skin was halfway decent. What else was there? Ex Machina, slightly interesting, still boring. X, also boring as shit. Pearl, boring as shit. I mean, it took a full fucking hour to get to the first kill. What else was there? Maxine, also. God, I think Maxine was the worst one. Boring as fuck. Talk to Me was passable. The only good slow burn horror movies by A24 are The Lighthouse and The Witch, and that's only because Robert Eggers is a great director. Which brings me to the current state of horror. See, modern horror is what people are now calling elevated horror. It's supposed to be a genre focused on the more psychological aspects of trauma and the effects it has on the world around you. Only, we have psychological horror already. Imagine if Seven or Silence of the Lambs had a disconnected story about a family dealing with some secret trauma with no overarching plot where the main characters sit around looking dazed and shocked about seeing a dead body, but do that for an hour and a half while absolutely nothing happens until the very end, where the last scene gives you a vague hint of what was actually going on. That's every A24 horror movie in a nutshell. That's not genius storytelling. That's pretentious bullshit. See, I don't need constant exposition dumps like a villain sharing their plans to tell a good story, but people staring glassy-eyed into the camera for 2 hours isn't any better. A24 movies are trash, and I said what I said. Now, maybe their newer stuff is better, but I haven't seen anything recent. Death of a Unicorn looks different, and I heard Bring Her Back was good. Then we have Barbarian, which wasn't bad, but also wasn't great. I didn't hate it, alright? So don't put words in my mouth. I just didn't think it was all that great. The whole two stories stitched together just felt kind of broken. Again, I don't mind slow burn horror when slow burn is interesting. Barbarian was just not interesting. Now, there are caveats like Malignant, which was pure ridiculous fun, and I mean that in the best way possible. That movie was entertaining beginning to end, no matter how wacky and crazy it got. 28 years later was strange, but I was never bored. Saw X, or Saw 10, was fucking great, and I thought Sinners was pretty good. It was okay. Not great, just good. I will say, though, I still think it should have been Crossroads Demons with the whole blues connection instead of vampires. The vampire aspect just seemed kind of random. Like, of all the monsters to tie in with the cultural relevance of the blues, why vampires? There were so many other things to do. The vampire angle just felt kind of cheap. A Quiet Place. It was okay. And so was Get Out. But other than Get Out, I'm just not a fan of Jordan Peele's heavy-handed take on the genre. He's just, I'm going to say that word again, kind of pretentious, amongst other things. Horror feels really divided right now. It doesn't mean I don't like newer, slower horror movies. I mean, shit, I thought the last Nosferatu was one of the most beautiful Gothic-era vampire movies ever made. And I liked Final Destination Bloodlines, even if it was kind of dumb. I mean, yeah, it had a lot of stupid parts and plot holes, and a lot of it just seemed like, why are we going in this direction? Oh, but now we're going in this direction. But it was cohesive, and it was fun, and it was a bloody good time. Really bloody, which I appreciate. I guess right about here is where I can mention the movies I'm divided on, and I'm kind of talking about the Conjuring movies. They're okay. I like demonic possession movies, my favorite being Possession with Sam Neill. That is a crazy fucking movie. If you haven't seen Possession, I think it was made back in the late 70s, early 80s, check it out. But yeah, the Conjuring universe movies like Annabelle and The Nun are just mediocre. They're not terrible. They're not great. I know they have this huge expanded universe franchise, but they're just kind of throwaway movies for me. They're worth a watch, but completely forgettable. I couldn't tell you what happened from The Conjuring 2, 3, 4, Nun 1, 2. I couldn't tell the difference between any of them. Unlike the Saw movies, where I could tell you which trap was in which movie. Maybe that's just me. Thankfully, there is a silver lining, and honestly, I'm shocked at how popular a little movie about a killer clown has gotten. I'm talking about Terrifier. Thank fuck that Damien Leone made the Terrifier movies, so people like me that don't give a fuck about family melodrama, even though Terrifier has family melodrama, can enjoy a movie with gratuitous, over-the-top violence. So, with all my bitching and moaning, I'd say, you know what, we really do have a good variety of horror out there. I was just dreading the last few years of slower than slow, mega slow, slow burn, boring as fuck, nothing happens until the end, Blumhouse A24 bullshit. Hell, I just wish Twisted Pictures came out with something besides Saw. So yeah, aside from the clickbait title, I don't think all modern horror sucks. It just kind of seemed to be going in a very stale direction, and it kind of just got boring after a while. But if you agree with me, disagree with me, want to talk horror, or if I missed any movies you want to mention or have any suggestions, please leave a comment. And give a like and subscribe. This is a genre I'm really passionate about, and no two people will ever agree on everything. But that's the beauty of it, and why these conversations are fun. I mean, some of these movies I've only seen once, and if there's something I missed and you absolutely love one of the movies that I hate, let me know why you love it. And I don't mind. I'll give it another watch. Maybe seeing something from a different angle may make me change my mind. That kind of happened with, oh my God, what was it? The first time I saw Scream, actually. Yeah, I thought it was going to be just a stupid teeny bopper, being chased. Oh my God, bullshit. And then I watched it again and watched the second one and third one kind of in a row, a little Scream marathon. It turned out, you know what? These aren't too bad. I kind of changed my mind. I hated Scream at first because I lumped it in with all the other teen bullshit PG-13 movies in the 90s, but when I watched it again, I changed my mind. So maybe I might change my mind about some of these. Let me know what you think. Anyway, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
You guys might want to run.